Hi, this is Peter Hislop with Stuart Buckland, and this is Shift.
That's right. I'm here with you again to annoy you with some more questions, if that's okay.
That's fine. You can't annoy me, Stuart. You know that. I'm the one that annoys you, I suspect.
That sounds like a challenge. Let's see what we can do.
All right, go ahead. Have a shot.
Today, I wanted to grill you on purpose, failure, and success when it comes to executives and the experiences you might have had coaching people in those particular kind of areas. So, I guess my first question is on the topic of purpose. How difficult is it for the average executive to understand what their real purpose is as an executive?
Well, what is their real purpose as an executive? As an outsider, what do you think it is?
It's to lead and to lead in a way that suits the company, the team, and the greater aspirations.
In other words, to ensure that the organisation successfully makes money for the owners.
Yes, well, that's usually the greater aspiration.
Normally not. For many executives working in large companies, they couldn't care less.
Right.
The purpose is how far can I get up the pole, because that is going to determine my remuneration.
Yes.
It's also going to determine how much fun I can have intellectually, how many problems I can solve, how much fun I can have with bettering other people in the room. Just depends on the person. There are some people who are senior executives who care deeply about steel, about digging holes in the ground, about caring for sick people. So if you then try and get executives to think about a common purpose, that's more difficult.
Right.
Because normally at that level, at the most senior level of executives, it's an uncommon place. They're all determined by different things.
Yes. So an executive comes to you and says, I want help with X.
Yes.
So how often is it the case that consciously or subconsciously they're really asking for help with something else and then maybe they don't know it?
That's a really interesting question, Stu. And I think you're right. A lot of people do come to executive coaching professing to want something, but knowing that there is a deeper issue they need help with. So they may come to you and say, look, I need to be able to organise my time better. I need to be able to focus better on managing upwards, managing my manager and the people above them. And then when you start getting into, well, what do people think of you? What's your self-awareness? You find that, oh, well, some people don't seem to like me very much. And then it becomes more remedial coaching. They haven't been able to admit that they're treating people badly, but finally they do, because the level of feedback is so great as to say, well, you're going to have to do something about this, but they don't want to admit it.
So it is knowing more often than not, knowingly.
Yes.
And the hope is that you'll find out what it truly is.
Yes. Without doing an assessment, because they don't like assessments, because it might throw up something they didn't know about.
Right.
And they will try and direct you to one particular issue. And you know when they're starting to get a little bit panicky, they'll say, look, Peter, this is something that a lot of people have said to me over the years. I don't know whether it's something we should think about. And that's how they grab that issue finally to make sure we don't go anywhere else. It's quite often the issue that's not as important as any of the others. For instance, the need to be right. Very, very few executives ever come to me and say, I've got this problem because I have this uncontrollable need in every meeting to be right. They'll come to me and say, Peter, how can I make myself more plain? How do I explain myself better, because people are not getting it? And that's normally because people have switched themselves off from this uncontrolled need to be right. So that idea that they've come to you with a problem in order to actually fix another problem is quite often the case. And it's quite often the case too when they come along and say, look, my manager has asked me to come along and speak to you. He wants me to engage you because he wants me to deal with this. Often that's the easiest thing to deal with. And he says, well, while we're here, can we talk about another issue?
Right.
And that's why one of the big aspects of the confidentiality of coaching shines brightly for these people because they know that they can speak to someone outside the company in confidence.
Yeah. And so more often than not, does ambition and purpose align, or can they be in conflict? Or are they often the same thing, or are they opposed a lot of the time? That's a very broad question I've just asked you, isn't it?
I remember coaching quite an extraordinary woman who was quite senior in banking. And we were talking about purpose and how that was changing and how the bank's purpose was being hijacked by their advertising agency and their marketing people. And I said to her, when did you first think about being a banker? And she said, I've always wanted to be a banker. I remember my mother, after my father left, my mother used to have people around and they'd sit in our living room and Mum would give them advice on how to manage their money. And I would sit on the floor, and mostly these people whose husbands had walked away and left them with children, she'd sit there and just give them this free advice on how to manage money. And this daughter would sit on the floor, taking all this in. And she determined that that's the way she wanted to spend her life. So there was no way really that she would go outside a bank to work. She always wanted to be within that area, focused on helping people. But she found that the higher she rose in the bank and getting perilously close to the top, the more detached she was from the customers themselves. And that started to eat away at her purpose.
Mm.
That's quite a common theme, more so in women than men. Men like mining companies because they've got big machines that go grunt and things like that, and dig large holes.
Yeah.
I think doctors and nurses hold up the purpose of a hospital so that the executives who are not doctors and nurses don't necessarily have to have the purpose of patient care, but because of the difficult constraints of working in a hospital, that it would probably be a good idea anyway. So their purpose quite often is patient care. But there are some doctors that I've met in other circumstances who don't have a purpose of patient care. They have a purpose of using their patients to research issues that they can then write about.
So they're authors first and doctors second.
Well, they're doctors first who then decided, well, look, I want to groundbreak into a theory that may be even called after me, like Buckland syndrome.
No one wants that.
Yeah, so probably better than the Hislop syndrome.
I want to talk about failure now, something I'm more familiar with. Blunt question first. Is there a good way to fail?
Yes.
Is it easy for executives to see that?
Yes.
So, in your experience, have you watched someone's failure become the best thing that's ever happened to them, career-wise?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Because all you've got to do with failure is learn from it, and it's fantastic. If you don't learn from it, then you'll just fail again.
Yes.
So failure is not a bad thing. Failure means that you're pushing the limits. If you never fail, I've got clients who've come to me and I've said, when was the last time you failed? And they've sort of stared, don't think I have.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever failed. So they're people who've walked the centre line. They haven't pushed limits. Failure on that basis is a good thing.
And so do executives understand that by and large? How often do you have to explain it? Or because it's such a kind of high performance environment to be in, where they're probably told from an early age, you can't fail. Is there a common way that the executives often react? Not to try and treat them like a scientific subject, but...
How do I explain this? There is this idea that came from NASA of failure is not an option.
From people working at NASA?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think failure has to be an option. In most of the executives that are now senior executives, someone at some stage has said, I'm going to give you an opportunity and I want you to do this thing for the next 3 months. I'm telling you, you can't fail. I will save you. I'll protect you, save you, put it back together. You can't fail. But on that basis, what are you going to do? And they will remember that. that moment where they knew that they had pushed through and they understood what failure was, but they weren't scared that failure would eliminate them. And so that's one of the great things about a leader is saying to a direct report, you're not going to be able to fail. I mean, you can say it to your children, but where failure in a command and controlled environment is used against someone, then it becomes debilitating. So a bad manager who is command and control says to someone, you have failed me. And the relationship becomes toxic.
Because the failure is not seen as an opportunity in that environment.
No, the failure is you failed me.
Yeah.
And they're leaders who shouldn't be given leadership roles.
Yeah.
Because it's like the teacher who once said to me that I would never amount to anything important. That's not good teaching.
No.
That's not good teaching. But nor did it even provide an impetus to me.
Well, that was what I was going to ask.
No.
The only purpose it could serve is the fire to prove them wrong, but...
No, it didn't. It didn't. I didn't have any fire in those days.
Yeah. Okay.
And I found that pretty horrible. I remember a French teacher who sent a report saying, all we can hope is that at no time in his life will he land himself in France, which I thought was vaguely amusing.
Yes.
But I've taken from that, never try and speak French.
Right.
And I've adhered to that. So the whole failure thing, treated properly, what have you learned from it?
Well, yeah.
How many times can you fail? And just keep learning.
You say you had no fire then. I'm glad you found some kindling in the intervening years, because you certainly have it now.
Well, yes, trying to make up for it. But don't forget Edison. It was Edison who was in town one evening and someone raced up to him and said, your factory's on fire. And he was walking back to the factory, and his factory outside his house, where all his stuff was burned to the ground. And someone said to him, Mr. Edison, you must be devastated. And he said, no, it just cleared the way to start again. Not many people have that reaction.
Yes, I was about to say, if only more did, right?
Exactly right. If we did in fact learn from that. But the Wright brothers learned from failure after failure after failure.
Yes. And 60-something years later, we're on the moon.
Well, 60-something years later, we were able to put an A380 in the air, which still boggles my mind.
Yes.
That something that heavy can fly.
I want to ask you, you probably can't answer it because, it'll be too specific. I was going to ask, what's the most dramatic professional failure you've seen someone go through and then be able to rebuild from? But another broader way to answer it is, have you seen a lot of leaders having that attitude and success stories out of learning lessons from failures?
Look, most leaders will have stories that they tell about what comes about when failure is treated properly and treated with positivity. I think some of the most dramatic failures that I have seen have to do with people backing too much of themselves and the organisation into something that they truly believed in when everybody else in the organisation didn't. Not everyone can be an Elon Musk. Not everyone can be a Bill Gates. Most people should really take advice from those people around them who are saying, listen, that's a piece of crap. You shouldn't try and sell that on open market. But if you believe it and you say, well, I'm going to be a Bill Gates, sometimes you should be a bit wary of that. Back in the days when I was an article clerk, I saw a colleague who was treated by the partners as a failure over one issue and was treated really, really badly over this one issue that turned out to be no issue at all. But he worked hard and became a very, very successful lawyer instead of that. And I am sure that the way he was treated was a spur to him. He was an unbelievably humble individual, but it was a spur to him to drive forward. He didn't learn anything from that failure because there wasn't anything to learn, but he learned the fragility of humility and he built from that. So I think that's always stayed with me. That's from a long time ago.
It's okay to have less direct lessons to learn out of failure, I suppose.
Oh yeah,
That's
I
fine.
mean, how many lessons can you learn out of failure? I mean, I'm still learning lessons from my history of failures, and that's really important for me to be able to learn those lessons. It's like an encyclopedia.
Let's get more positive then. What about success? I at the start of the failure questions, I asked you if there's a good way to fail. Here, is there a bad way to succeed?
Yes, you succeed on flying on the back of your ego.
Yeah.
That's a bad way to succeed. You succeed standing on the shoulders of others. You succeed on the hard work of others without taking them with you.
Why does that happen so often?
Because in organisations, and there are probably people who are going to say this is rubbish, but in organisations that are built on hierarchies, like scaffolding, and are basically housed by men, men are incredibly hierarchical. And so the people above them, they will give the credit to. You're allowed to take credit if you're above me, because you're a man, and that's the way men think. The toughest, the whatever is higher up. Women, on the other hand, don't do that. Women will tear someone down if they're taking credit for something that they shouldn't be taking credit for. So yes, there is a bad way to succeed. If you succeed in hurting people or by hurting people, if you succeed by costing people some kind of financial or emotional damage. So the success is rarely pure, joyful, and deserved. Most success in the business world can be cut up on the basis that it really is, it's not exactly holy. It's not exactly beautiful. It's poor and selfish and driven by ego. You look at some of the work that's been done in some of the spinal areas in this country, in some of the gastro areas of this country. They have a huge success through the hard work of others. I mean, the success in treatment of HIV has been quite extraordinary due to the hard work and the leadership. And people saying, okay, we fail, we'll keep failing till we succeed. They're the ones we don't talk about so much. To talk about the success of a bank, I think is an absurdity. I think we have to assume banks will succeed.
Yes, for the benefit of all.
Yeah, but they don't really succeed because they keep promising themselves higher success levels, which is all to do with shareholders.
Yes.
It confuses the whole issue. It's not pure. We've complicated everything. Life is, in fact, quite simple. We are on a world that is difficult. And all we have to do is constantly face the difficulty and win each day. We don't have to own it. We don't have to have more money than anybody else in the world. We don't have to have anything like that. We've just got to face the difficulties and make ourselves better than we were the day before. And if we all did that, can you imagine? But in the business world, it's just complicated.
So do you find that executives often understand why they succeeded, or is it more just a case of, I expected of myself, it doesn't bear much thinking about, we move on?
I think that attitude is very prevalent.
Yeah.
And it's because most executives live their lives being judged by KPIs and numbers and percentages and all that sort of thing. Sometimes they are surprised when something happens and they learnt that in their success, something completely untoward has happened. Something good has happened. And they're quite surprised by that. But these days, executives are so precisely judged on KPIs and attached to their long and short-term bonuses, that's what they're focused in on. It's about the numbers. And they don't necessarily see senior executives in a bank who say, okay, we've got 200,000 new mortgages this quarter, don't see the joy of a young couple getting their first house. It never enters their head. Whereas I think if they went out and they looked at the young couple on the first day they're moving in and they spent time with them a week later at a barbecue in the backyard, they'd have a very, very different view of what their job was.
Why is
Yeah.
that though?
Because we have decided that we need to judge our executives in order to remunerate them. And the only way we can judge them is by numbers. And therefore we create a whole rating system for them, a set of numbers that we can regulate, we can follow, and we can judge, and it's pass or fail. And so, tick. But we don't say, well, they were able to provide 200,000 new mortgages,
Yeah.
and therefore there are 200,000 happy couples. We don't consider that because that can't be measured. The way the business world operates is under strict measurement. We have to have measures. No one wants you to say, oh, I feel better. They want you to say, oh, well, I was able to get 7% more than last month. No one wants you to say, oh, look, this month I felt real joy in what I did in my job. They're all going to say, well, we can't measure joy.
Yeah.
That's just silly.
So it sounds like there's again, consciously, maybe, subconsciously, maybe, realization that adding that human element is costly. Time-wise, brain space-wise, focus-wise.
Well, no one's done it, so we don't know.
Mm.
I mean, one of the longest processes when you are introducing or trying to get someone to take a CEO role, one of the longest processes is negotiating their remuneration package. And some of these things are incredibly complicated.
Yes.
And I don't
What
understand
bonuses
why.
are tied to and all that sort of thing, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, these are complex contracts that these people sign up to rather than just, okay, I'm going to be paid this amount per year. If we have to have incentives for them to reach higher goals, this is the problem.
Mm.
We should be able to advertise purpose and advertise joy and advertise delight and say, this is what you're going to feel in the organisation. Fantastic. So I'm getting enough money to cover my debts and my liabilities and put some money aside. That's fantastic. Let me at it because I really have wanted to own a garden shop or I've...
Be fair, I think some companies are starting to try to have that attitude, but they're certainly not the big enough companies that have those upper level executives.
You hear people aghast at some of the salaries that are floated around for CEOs.
Yes.
They are complicated contracts to make up that $17 million. I don't understand why you just don't say, okay, let's just pay you $13 million because that's what the market says you're worth, and we just want you to go and enjoy. So one of the first questions you'd ask is, if you got the job here at our company, will you enjoy it? Will you find joy in it? And if they say no, well, the rest is finished. They can't. That way you got people going to work in a bank who don't like banking. Or going to work in a mining company who don't like mining. I mean, it's absurd.
This might seem like a strange question, but I think you've told me before that the more successful an executive becomes, the lonelier it can get for them because they have fewer and fewer people to relate to. Is that something you've had to coach through, isn't it?
Yes. And the problem there is when they're getting towards the top, there seems to be an instinct to suddenly start appointing your friends around you.
Yeah.
Your friends are qualified, people you've worked with before, but they're qualified to do the job, but they're more your friends than the right person to get the job. Because the executive knows that at some stage fairly soon, it is going to start getting lonely. So they think having their friends around is a good thing.
And you're less likely to get backstabbed by your friend too, probably.
Well, yes, but the problem is when you get the job, you're likely to have to stab them
Yeah.
because your responsibility and accountability for the results goes up, and you suddenly find that your friend really isn't performing. And so that's why a lot of people have jobs for a long, long time. It's because the CEO is their friend and he won't or she won't terminate them.
So this is fairly prevalent, is it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, yes. Because one of the core pieces of advice most coaches will give someone at this level is do not appoint a friend to the executive level of your company. Because at some stage you may have to take them out the back and cut their head off. And you're not going to want to do it, and so you're going to sit there with someone who you know is underperforming and pulling you backwards.
Yes. And covering for them, and that takes your focus away, right? Yeah.
Yes. So it is very, very prevalent. I mean, there's another aspect to it as well. Remember that we're still building silos, or as some academics want to call them, centres of excellence. So we put all the finance people in one building, and the senior people in the finance area keep employing people that work together within this building. And they work nicely together. You don't bring in the radicals, so everyone works nicely. So they all start looking and sounding like the people at the top. Okay? So the people at the top are there, that's fine. Then the person at the top gets promoted into the senior executive role, which may be CEO. Suddenly they're leading other groups from other silos that they've never had to deal with before. They don't know how they think. They don't know what their history is. And their history themselves as CEO has been in another silo.
Yeah.
So that becomes really, really difficult for them. And they don't have friends all of a sudden. They are quite alone. So that's why they tend to sit around with other CEOs, or they do make the mistake of trying to be a friend to other people within the organisation. But most people don't want to be the friend of the CEO. It's too dangerous.
Yes. You have to be on edge all the time, probably.
Well, if you get too close, you will die when they die.
Yeah. Right.
And most CEOs are going to be removed at some stage.
All right. Let me ask you two quick questions here because we've done our time. Would you say executives that you coach are happy? Generally, are they happier than the average person?
Well, I think they experience less joy. They experience less peace. They experience less wonder and awe. Whether they're happy or not, it depends on their own attitude to their own success. If they feel that they deserve the success that they've received, then they're probably going to be content.
Yeah.
If they feel they don't deserve their success, then they start becoming paranoid, worried that someone's going to come and take it away from them. So I don't think happiness comes into it. I think that during the time they're a CEO, I think that they become stressed, they become a little detached, but some of them enjoy that. Some of them use that as an excuse for all sorts of misbehaviour.
I do worry sometimes that we sound like we're treating executives like some new creature that's been discovered that needs studying. And I'm asking you all these kind of pertinent, well, what do they lack? How do they act?
Well, remember that for a long time, executives weren't examined.
Yeah.
There weren't executive assessment tools. And there was no need to assess them because they're in male-dominated hierarchies, and they were protected and misbehaviour. I mean, one of the great executives from the 50s or 60s used to often, and his behaviour was appalling, used to say, well, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And that was fine, except he was damaging people's lives. But in those days, no one was going to hold them to account.
Yeah.
And the people who were damaged by it were just shuffled out the back door as not being strong enough, not being resilient enough. So executives have come under a lot of examination since we've started talking about, the psychology of employment and what employees I have a right to expect in relation to their own well-being. And so this has brought a whole lot of executive behaviours into the spotlight. Now, that's a whole other podcast.
Yes. And with it, the rise of HR departments, I suppose.
Well, someone had to take charge of creating a new power base.
Yeah. All right. Lastly, just to finish on a positive note, back to failure. We talked a little bit about failure being an opportunity to rebuild for executives. Just turning it back to you slightly, is there a failure of yours as a coach that you've been able to take and learn a lot from, or that changed how you approach things at all?
I think there was one failure that really put me on my heels and made me reconsider a lot about the way I coached. And that taught me a lot. I think where at the end of a coaching assignment I feel that I could have gotten further, done more, where the contribution wasn't as high as it could have been, then I really have go back and examine it. And I look at diaries as to times, and I always try to work out when I coach better, in the mornings or the afternoons. I've never quite been able to figure that out. How many coaching assignments I can do a day. So I now know that I can't do 5, but I can do 4. That sort of thing. So I think you learn constantly. You do learn a lot about respect of the client and their privacy and their self-development, and the impact that an uncontrolled executive can have on families.
Well, thanks, Peter. Let's talk again next week.
Thanks, Stu. As always, it's great to talk with you and great to exchange ideas. And I hope that people listening take the opportunity of getting in touch with us and letting us know what they think.
That's right. And if you like it, tell someone about it who might like it.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Stu. That's great.